Thank you for joining us this evening. I'm Dawn Sterling.
And I'm Stacey Skryzak. 23 years ago on 9/11, the world changed forever. And today, as people pause to remember the victims, local school districts created special lesson plans for their students.
News Channel 20's Monique Davis is working for you to share the preparation school districts made to educate students about this historic event. Monique?
I sat down with staff from District 186 in Williamsville and Sherman, and they emphasized the importance of making sure this current generation of students understand the significance of the event that impacted history.
It's been such a long time ago that we need to make sure that we remember the events that occurred, unfortunately, on that day and provide that information and instruction in our classrooms.
At 8:46 Wednesday morning, the entire Sherman School District observed a moment of silence to commemorate the events of 9/11. Inside the classroom, history teachers like Josh Scranton engaged students in discussion about the aftermath of 9/11 and what effects it still has today.
First hour, we talked about September 12th, right? That unity that we saw as a nation, right? We haven't really seen a whole lot of things like that since then. Second hour, that kind of moved into questions about immigration. With these big events going on, with the security, things like that, how are things like this still able to happen? So third hour, they brought up the question of gun violence.
Scranton says remembering 9/11 goes beyond one day.
A lot of people think it's just past the past, we're in the now, right? But I always try and connect things that happened back then into what's going on right now.
In District 186, teachers like Andy Volpert share CNN news coverage so students can see in real time how many lives were affected.
It started at 8:49 a.m. when the first plane hit and people thought it was an accident. And then we show the second plane, then the Pentagon, and then we end with the Flight 93 crashing in Pennsylvania. And so they're able to see in 9 minutes the course of how it went from, oh my gosh, what a terrible accident, to, oh, now we're at war.
Volpert also makes sure to connect with students on a personal level.
People who are their parents' and grandparents' age may have been in New York City that day. And what would they have done if they'd been a fireman, or if they'd been at above the impact zone of the Twin Towers, or what if they'd been on Flight 93? What would they have done if they found out that 3 other planes had been kidnapped that morning, and you might be on the 4th one?
Williamsville Sherman Superintendent Tip Reedy says English teachers also created prompts leading up to this day. Reporting live in Springfield, I'm Monique Davis.
Thanks, Monique. The Sherman School District also read a statement to students to commemorate Patriot Day.
Decatur residents paid tribute for the victims of 9/11 with a memorial stair climb. People climbed the stairways of the Hampton Inn for 2 hours. They were asked to run for 28 laps around the stairways. The distance of those laps equates to the same as the 144 flights of stairs at the World Trade Center. The event also included exhibits honoring the victims.
We try really hard while we're here to have things that you can see and interact and feel while you're here. We have pieces that were at the World Trade Centers at Ground Zero. We have a flag for every person who lost their life. 2,977 people died, and we have an American flag for every single one of them.
The stair climb started in 2020 and has become an annual event.
Later in the show, national correspondent Kayla Gaskins speaks with the brother of one of the victims of 9/11 about what they want to see from our future leaders.
23 years later, and the images that 9/11 brings still haunt first responders and those who witnessed the attacks.
It sure does. And News Channel 20's Carolina Hassett got a chance to talk to a man who was not only a witness to that day, but spent 6 months helping with recovery efforts.
The anniversary of 9/11 is still an emotional day every year for Richard Tersey. After the devastating attacks in 2001, Tersey spent months searching through the rubble from the World Trade Center, finding things that he will never forget.
Looked at this lady and I said, again, I says, did you find your loved one? And she looked at me and she shook her head. She said, no, we never found my daughter.
Richard Tersey lived in Brooklyn during the 9/11 terror attacks. He tells me he relives the painful memories every year.
Sometimes I have nightmares.
Tersey said that morning felt like just a normal day until he saw a plane flying low near the towers.
We looked up and you just seen the guy flying the plane. That's how low it was. And the plane was just going like from side to side, across the Hudson River, and then bang into the other tower.
Tersey worked at a warehouse nearby and was asked to help first responders with the cleanup and recovery efforts. He spent 20 hours a day going through rubble, taking what needed to be burned to the sanitation facility, including seeing victims who were killed in the attacks.
You went into that room, it was all metal tables with different kind of body parts on it. 1 minute.
Moments, he says, will live in his mind forever.
Seeing a shoe. And like I was coming out of the thing, coming out of one of the piles, and I walked over and I pulled this thing out. It was a bottom part of a little girl.
Tersey says his family got him through that painful time. And while it was the first time in a long time the state of New York came together, he'll never forget the aftermath.
It's still I have hate in my heart and sadness.
Now, as Tersey said, he helped with recovery efforts for nearly 6 months after the attacks. In studio, I'm Carolina Hassett. Back to you.
Thanks, Carolina. Tersey says he remembers his name being mentioned during a session of Congress when they dedicated a day to read off all the names of those who helped during that time. Thanks for watching. Stick around by subscribing today and don't miss a single video.